That day in Manhattan, New York City, United States, the sky was covered in red, enveloping the cityscape. Suddenly, a notification from the system announced that demotion prevention would soon commence. People began preparing to await further information from the system. Subsequently, the system informed that this mission was about survival. Suddenly, the New York City skyline was torn apart by the hand of a giant monster, which was unexpectedly summoned by the system. The monster was Behemoth, the world destroyer. Behemoth's body was immense with sharp claws, instilling fear in the people. However, they couldn't retreat because if they lost, the monster would destroy the world. People began gearing up to face the attack from the terrifying Behemoth. Initially, BattleNet was merely an international gaming competition. However, everything changed when the Space League commenced in 2022. Since then, the battle for survival against other creatures in space began. Unfortunately, Earth's representatives, the humans, suffered numerous defeats in each battle. By 2023, only 10 countries remained on Earth after being destroyed by monsters. This placed the Earth on the brink of destruction. The battle between people and the Behemoth monster continued. Many country representatives were killed by the monster. Suddenly, from above, a young man descended towards the monster. He stared sharply at the monster and began launching attacks. Time and again, he unleashed powerful attacks, causing massive explosions on the ground. The formidable attacks from the young man successfully defeated the resilient Behemoth monster. People couldn't believe what they had just witnessed. A single young man had defeated the monster alone. The system notified that the mission was complete. People wondered if it was the power of the martial saint. The young man who defeated the monster was Song Ji-han, the world player ranked 7th. He was affiliated with American First. From above, a voice proclaimed that America had once again won this battle, and this historic moment would be remembered by all citizens and the master. The master who spoke was named Baron William. He was the world player ranked 1st and the guild master of American First. A girl descended to approach Ji-han. Someone seemed to object to the girl approaching Ji-han because the energy from the monster's carcass was still strong and could endanger her. However, Baron allowed the girl to approach, believing she could handle any potential danger. The girl approaching Ji-han was named Sophia, ranked 3rd and affiliated with American First. Sophia attempted to use her abilities to heal the injury on Ji-han's left hand. Ji-han's wound must have been painful. Sophia felt concerned for Ji-han's condition, while Ji-han appeared to endure the pain from his injury. "Master, look below." One of Master Baron's subordinates pointed out something below. It turned out to be a gift box from the boss as a bonus for completing the mission. Baron ordered Sophia and Ji-han to stay away from the gift box because he himself would arrange the distribution of the received bonus. Some people looked cynically at Baron's pride, because people surely thought that Baron had killed the monster. Baron descended to the gift box and announced that Americans were prioritized to receive the distribution of rewards. People seemed to comply with Baron's words. Baron mentioned that those entitled to the reward were Priestess, ranked 4th, and ranked 5th. However, Sophia disagreed with the master's decision. According to Sophia, Ji-han should receive the reward because he was the one who killed the monster. However, according to the master, Ji-han was not entitled to the reward because he was not American. Even though he had changed his citizenship, Ji-han was still not a Native American. According to the master, Ji-han was just a loyal dog. Sophia still tried to protest the Master Baron's decision, but Ji-han prevented her. He felt fine with the decision and left the place. Ji-han realized he was merely a refugee from his country, which had been destroyed by monsters. He was the nameless Divine Arts, needing to upgrade 3 Divine Arts to match his user. Although he was ranked 7th, he often faced discrimination in this country for not being recognized as an American citizen. But one thing that made him feel guilty was being the only survivor when monsters destroyed his country. Currently, he wanted to focus on healing his wounds first so he could carry out the next mission. The system announced that the game had ended, and then revealed the results of the Bronze League demotion mission. The conditions were met. More than half of the players survived. America and China succeeded while some other countries failed. People appeared surprised by the mission results because only 2 out of 10 countries managed to pass. Moreover, there were other players who had lost in the demotion prevention mission. Then the system announced the next mission, the final demotion decision battle against Orc. People were shocked by the next mission they would undertake. Sophia worried they wouldn't be able to win this mission. Therefore, Sophia suggested that the Master call upon Jihan to fight because Jihan had experience in defeating Orc. However, the Master rejected Sophia's suggestion and decided to fight without Jihan. The system called representatives from each planet as the battle was about to begin. The Master and several others began preparing, awaiting the Orcs' attack. They stared at each other sharply, full of vengeance. Only 4 human representatives from Earth remained to fight, along with a ranker from China. The Master remained optimistic about winning the battle against the Orc, even without the assistance of Song Jihan. The battle commenced. The Master began using all of his abilities to defeat the ferocious Orc. People were shocked to witness this intense battle. Meanwhile, Jihan observed the course of the battle from his window. He saw many humans being slain by the Orc. People were surprised and worried about the outcome of this battle. Without mercy, the Orc killed the players even though they were defenseless. The game ended with Orc emerging victorious. Humans suffered defeat, and all players were killed by the Orc, including the Master. The consequence of each defeat in the league was demotion to the lower league. Unfortunately, the Bronze League was the lowest league currently participated in by humans. Due to their loss in this league, the system deemed humans no longer useful and thus expelled them from the Space League. Next, the system would erase the human race due to their defeat in the Bronze League. The deletion mode was initiated. Jihan and all humans gradually vanished, and this was the end of the world. The cries of the erased humans echoed until the system successfully completed the deletion of the human race. However, suddenly the system detected an error. It informed that there were humans remaining after the deletion mode was completed. The system detected an object, the nameless divine arts, resisting deletion. Meanwhile, in another part of the system, there was a debate about whether to give the nameless divine arts object a second chance or to delete it. Eventually, it was decided that the system would give Song Jihan a chance. He would be returned to the beginning of his entry into the league. Jihan woke up in a room, lying on a sofa in his house. He tried to recall what was happening. He remembered that he would be resurrected at the beginning when entering the league, but he didn't know where he was currently. Jihan approached the window and opened the curtains to see his surroundings. Apparently, he was in Korea in the year 2020 when Korea was still stable. Jihan was happy because he had truly returned to the world. He opened the status window to check his current status. Currently, he was still at level 2. This was his chance to change Korea's future. He was determined to protect everyone. He felt capable of changing the circumstances because he had seen the end of this game. In the year 2020, Korea was in a very stable condition. There was a world-class player who ranked among the top 11. He held the 3rd rank globally and possessed exceptional sword skills, earning him the title of Sword King. This warrior's name was Yoon Se-jin. He used to be a national pride and a precious asset to Korea. Due to Yoon Se-jin's prowess, Korea consistently held the highest rank in the East Asia League. In July 2020, Yoon Se-jin announced shocking news. He left Korea and joined the Japanese Defense Forces. He even changed his name to Ito Ryuhei. This event caused a stir in the history of South Korean BattleNet, and it was during that time that Jihan was returned by the system. He felt irritated seeing Yoon Se-jin's face on television because since Yoon left Korea, many upheavals had occurred. People began to worry about South Korea's ranking in the league. And indeed, since Yoon's departure, South Korea suffered multiple defeats, causing its rank to plummet drastically. Despite the setbacks, Korean citizens still tried to remain optimistic about fighting and achieving a better ranking because there were still talented players. However, to this day, no one could replace Yoon Se-jin as the greatest warrior in Korea. Jihan turned off the television. He seemed pessimistic about anyone being able to restore South Korea's ranking. But Battle.net was ruthless and unforgiving. The Space League began. Initially, Battle.net was considered just a regular game. But 2 years later, when the Space League commenced, the game transformed into a battle for survival. If someone died in the game, they would die in the real world. Cruel and terrifying monsters appeared in various low-ranking countries and began unilateral attacks. After Yoon Se-jin left, Korea was in a low rank, thus becoming a target for monster attacks, leading to its destruction. Many survivors of the destruction regretted Yoon Se-jin's departure. They believed that if he were still in Korea, perhaps this tragedy would not have happened. Ironically, Yoon Se-jin turned out to be Song Ji-han's brother-in-law. With anger, Song Ji-han smashed the frames containing the photos of Yoon Se-jin and his brother. He was furious at his brother-in-law's decision that led to the destruction of South Korea. Why did he have to have a brother-in-law like Yoon Se-jin? And things might have been different if his brother were still alive. Deep down, Ji-han was glad to be returned by the system at the right time. However, his current position was at a low level. He regretted seeing his current status. But it all made sense because all he had been doing was drinking and gambling. Every person became a player at the age of 18, but only a few were fortunate enough to receive rewards. Ji-han was among the lucky ones to receive rewards, albeit at the lowest level. Unfortunately, Ji-han used all those rewards to gamble on predicting match winners. Ji-han continued to stare at his status window. Despite looking at it several times, his statistics remained very low. Ji-han was slightly puzzled because his level should still be at position 1. Not 2. It turned out that Ji-han remembered drinking a bottle of experience potion while he was drunk, which caused his level to increase. Song Ji-han was surprised to find out that he had accumulated 100,000 achievement points. He wondered why he had so many points. Had something changed when he was returned? He opened the inventory in the status window and found an achievement point redemption coupon. This coupon was given to the last survivor who chose to restart. With this coupon, he had the right to redeem his points. He decided to use the coupon. He thought about upgrading the achievement store to have more options. However, even though he had upgraded the store to level 3, he couldn't find any useful items for him. Ji-han had 50,000 points left. He hesitated whether to use the remaining points to upgrade the store or to buy items he needed immediately. He decided to take a gamble by choosing to use the remaining points to upgrade the store. His store was upgraded to level 4, and the system added an urgent restoration to his inventory. The urgent restoration was useful for repairing damaged items. Ji-han was pleased to receive an item that was useful to him. His fondness for gambling didn't go to waste. It sharpened his instincts. Song Ji-han tried to enter a room with fingerprint identification. He was a family member in that house, so he could enter the room. It turned out that the room was Yoon Se-jin's playroom. Ji-han tried Yoon Se-jin's Battle.net connector. The device still recognized Ji-han as a family member, so he could access Battle.net through that connector. He opened the inventory in Yoon Se-jin's Battle.net connector. In the inventory, Ji-han found the Dongfang Shuo brush with an A ranking. Unfortunately, the brush was damaged and couldn't be used. He remembered the urgent restoration item he had just obtained and used it to repair the Dongfang Shuo brush. The system successfully repaired the Dongfang Shuo brush. Ji-han smiled with joy. He felt ready to enter the league to fight. The brush belonged to Dongfang Shuo, who had been alive for 180,000 years. This brush could establish a connection with the martial god. Suddenly, the system announced that the tutorial in the Gangnam Bronze League would begin soon, and the summoning of participants would start in 10 seconds. Song Ji-han looked at the status window and realized he didn't have much time. He wrote something using the Dongfang Shuo brush, and that was how his level increased in his previous life, earning him the title of Martial Saint. As the time for summoning participants in the league continued, Ji-han wrote 2 letters that marked the beginning of his resurgence. Song Ji-han had entered the Battle.net League arena. The system announced that the mission this time was survival. Players had to survive against Colosseum monsters along with 100 other players. They had to defeat enemies until only 50 players remained. Jihan looked at the status window and was surprised to see his strength, agility, and stamina combined into martial power. This could be his asset to face the enemy. He thought this was his path to becoming the nameless divine arts. The system in Jihan's status window informed him that he logged in without connecting to the BattleNet connector. If he didn't use the connector, players would feel 100% pain in the game. Yoon Se-jin's BattleNet connector was the most expensive, absorbing pain up to 99%. Jihan would use it another time. He opened the achievement window and received a limited quest. It was a mission to complete the tutorial with a reward of 1,000 points. Jihan was glad because he felt capable of completing this mission. The game began. The system instructed the players to survive until the end of the game. Suddenly, Jihan felt unable to move his body, and without realizing it, there was a player behind him ready to attack him from behind. Unexpectedly, he managed to stop the sword attack from behind using only his 2 fingers. Guilds are organizations that educate and manage players. In Korea, many people are obsessed with BattleNet, so each country begins to invest in educating players. Due to many large companies investing, Korea has established many guilds capable of educating strong players at the beginning of the league. In South Korea, Gangnam is the area where players make their debut, thus having the opportunity to become the best. The system sent a message that the game would start soon. A player who had just entered the Gangnam area looked a bit nervous. The player's name was Do Hyaku. He was part of the Twin Star Guild, directly managed by the Twin Star Group. The Twin Star Guild is a guild that offers many promising opportunities. Do Gyaku was an ordinary player who could join Twin Star after receiving a rank A Agile gift. While this gift could only be obtained by a few players, Do Gyoku was confident he could rank in the top 50 players. He began to look for opponents to defeat. However, he noticed that his opponents were tough and would be difficult to beat. So, he chose a strategy to survive to avoid elimination from the game. He couldn't afford to choose the wrong opponent. Do Gyoku observed other players using good equipment and luxurious clothing, even though this was only the Bronze League. He was surprised to see a player wearing just sports pants and a tank top. He wondered if the player had chosen the wrong game location. Do Gyoku wondered why there was a player with such an appearance. Perhaps he was a beginner who had chosen the wrong place. That meant he was an easy target to defeat. So, he prepared to attack the player with his sword, feeling lucky to have an easy opponent. The system notified that the game was about to start and gave a mission for the players to survive until the game ended. Do Gyaku immediately launched an attack towards the player in the tank top, who turned out to be Song Jihan, our hero. He attacked Jihan with his sword from behind. However, Jihan managed to block the sword attack from behind using just his 2 fingers. He was surprised that his attack could be countered so easily. Jihan released the grip of Do Gyaku's sword, causing Gyaku to fall. Jihan mocked Do Gyaku for being too confident after joining the Gangnam League with such a gift. Do Gyaku was angry at Jihan's mockery, considering his Agile A gift useless. Jihan remained calm facing Gyaku's anger, which only made Gyaku angrier. Gyaku prepared to attack Jihan with a stronger blow, while Jihan remained calm facing the imminent attack. Do Gyaku launched his sword attack very quickly, trying to attack Jihan from various angles to defeat him. Jihan felt slightly challenged facing Gyaku's swift attacks. He felt his body movements were a bit slow to match his opponent's attacks. If only it were his past self, he would have won this fight quickly. After fighting for a while, Jihan began to understand Do Gyaku's attack pattern. He could read every move made by his opponent, enabling Jihan to seize Gyaku's sword and use it to defeat him. Do Gyaku was surprised to be defeated by Jihan and fell because of his own sword attack. He swore he would win next time in this fight. Jihan just smiled at his helpless opponent. The system informed that he had successfully defeated an opponent for the first time in this tutorial and earned 100 achievement points. Unfortunately, when the sword owner dies, the sword disappears, so Jihan couldn't use it again for battle. Jihan became excited to fight again. He thought he had to get 5 kills to rank first in this match. He looked at a group of orc monsters. In BattleNet, besides players, there were also groups of monsters that players had to face. However, players earned very few points when defeating orcs, so they avoided them and preferred to fight against other players. Jihan looked at his status window, and the system had created a new mission for him. The mission was to exterminate a group of about 30 orcs, the strongest orcs in the Gangnam Coliseum arena. The reward for success was 500 points. Jihan was interested in the reward offered by this new mission, which was 5 times larger than when he defeated his opponent in the arena. So, he had no reason to refuse this attractive offer. Moreover, the orcs he would face now were not like the orcs he had faced before. So, he began to advance to fight against the orcs. The orc monsters were surprised to see a human approaching them wearing such attire, and they prepared to face Jihan's attack, who had already started attacking them. Jihan began to fight against the orcs, successfully seizing an orc's axe and using it to fight them. Although outnumbered by many orcs, Jihan managed to withstand their strength, defeating several orcs. The orcs grew angrier seeing their comrades being killed. They began to increase their attacks to defeat Jihan. With his makeshift weapon, Jihan tried to kill the orcs one by one. Finally, Jihan unleashed his full power. He stomped his foot on the ground, causing the orcs to fall in droves. With his sword in hand, Jihan mercilessly exterminated the orcs. Jihan's movements were agile, and his attacks were powerful, overwhelming the orcs. Jihan successfully completed his mission and received a reward of 500 points for exterminating the orcs. Additionally, he also gained a level up due to his success. Jihan was surprised because he received a level up even though the game was not over yet. He thought it might be because his level was low, making it easy to increase. Jihan looked at his martial power. Martial power is a unique stat combining strength, agility, and stamina. With this stat, players can double their abilities. Martial power was special to Jihan because having a martial power of 30 would give him a chance to obtain the unnamed divine arts. Therefore, he had to obtain the unnamed divine arts as soon as possible. However, increasing martial power was not easy. It usually required fighting experience and lengthy training. Suddenly, a player attacked him with an arrow. Jihan managed to dodge the sudden attack and saw who had just attacked him with an arrow. It turned out to be a woman and her companion. The woman praised Jihan's agility in dodging her arrow attack. Both attackers wanted to quickly kill Jihan to finish the fight and gain points. Jihan was surprised by the presence of the two attackers, who were dressed luxuriously with expensive equipment. Although the survival map was specifically for PvP, there were no rules prohibiting players from forming teams. The female attacker came from a top 10 guild in Korea. She was from the Turtle Guild. Apparently, the two attackers were forming a team. The combination of a warrior and an archer provided a combination of short-range and long-range attacks, which had already claimed many player victims. The system notified that there were 60 players left, and the game time would soon end. Jihan was still thinking about how to deal with the two opponents because they were a tough pair to defeat. He opened his status window and saw that his current total kills were 4, not far from the others. With his current status, at least he could ensure his rank was still good. As the woman prepared to attack Jihan again with her arrow, Jihan suddenly defeated her with his sword in one swift motion. The woman fell, surprising her male companion. He wondered how his companion could be easily defeated. With a quick movement, Jihan jumped back and directed his sword attack to the man's back. The man was surprised by the sudden and fast attack. However, his high-quality armor protected him. He was confident his armor could protect him from Jihan's sword attack. But unexpectedly, Jihan launched another attack in the same area, and this time his attack successfully knocked down the man. Jihan laughed triumphantly as he managed to defeat 2 formidable players. On the other side, a woman and her bodyguard were observing the progress of the battle in the Gangnam arena. The woman, Lee Haeyeon, was surprised to see Jihan's fight. She was the head of the Divergent Guild's Division 3. Meanwhile, Her bodyguard's name was Lim Gaeong. In the player score, Gaeong occupied second place after Jihan. Gaeong pondered whether she should avoid fighting Jihan if they met. However, Lee Haeyeon believed that Gaeong could handle Jihan's abilities, so she insisted that Gaeong should fight and defeat Jihan. But Gaeong didn't want to fight Jihan. However, Lee Haeyeon ordered her to fight against Jihan, so reluctantly, Gaeong had to obey her superior's command. Moreover, Gaeong had already seen Jihan's fighting style through the monitor with her boss, so she believed she could face Jihan. Lim Gaeong is a member of the Twin Star Guild. She is known for having an S-rank gift. She is a newcomer and pride of the Twin Star Guild, always meeting everyone's expectations by never failing to rank first. However, since Song Jihan's arrival, her rank is currently in second place. Meanwhile, in the Turtle Guild recruitment team, someone is surprised by Song Jihan's presence, as he is still at a low level but possesses extraordinary abilities. For him, it doesn't make sense how someone dressed like that, with makeshift weapons, could achieve 6 kills. Who is he really? Song Jihan was sitting relaxed in the family room, checking the results of the battle he had just completed. He ranked first in the tutorial in Gangnam Arena 1. His EXP income increased by 50%, rapidly leveling him up. Currently, he was at level 7. He added 3 points to his martial power to increase it from 6 to 9. He also received the title Bronze, the one who conquered the tutorial after completing the mission. Although this title was only useful in the Bronze League, he was still satisfied because it could increase his status by 1 point. Now his martial power had 10 points, which would make it easier for him in the Bronze League. Currently, he was thinking about choosing a class because he didn't have one yet, and the requirements to get a class had been fulfilled, starting from level 5. Song Jihan was currently at level 6. Having a class was essential for every player. There were 4 class options: Archer, Warrior, Mage, and Support. Jihan had chosen the Warrior class in his previous life, so he thought it would be easier to progress if he chose that class again. But Jihan received an achievement store during regression, so he could get the Warrior class whenever he wanted. Moreover, if he wanted to choose another class, he only needed 10,000 points. Therefore, he decided not to choose the Warrior class for now. He finally chose another class. Meanwhile, in the Gangnam Bronze League arena, thousands of zombies gathered around the tower fortress. Another game had begun, and this time the mission was to survive the onslaught of zombies and protect the crystal. The battle would continue until only 5 towers remained. In that battle was Lim Gaeong from the Twin Star Guild. She felt disgusted seeing the appearance of the zombies in front of her. Shortly after, 2 other players appeared behind her. Gaeong observed the 2 players who had just appeared in front of her. The first player was an archer with B-rank equipment affiliated with LK. The other was a mage not affiliated with any guild but had excellent equipment. However, according to Gaeong, the most important thing to fight in this map was the presence of a support as assistance. Suddenly, a support appeared in front of them, but the support they hoped for turned out to be Song Jihan. It turned out that Song Jihan had chosen the support class beforehand, although the system did not recommend it. The system considered that the support class did not suit Jihan's character. Song Jihan received divine power when choosing support as his class. This item was an essential part of creating a new unique status. However, a unique status was an item that was difficult to develop through training, unlike other statuses. There was no other way to obtain this unique status other than by allocating the remaining points. However, Song Jihan had obtained the nameless divine arts and put all his points into martial power. Therefore, he thought he would not waste his remaining points. He knew another way unknown to other players. Gaeong and the other players felt surprised and reluctant about Jihan joining their mission. One player even said that Jihan only brought bad luck to the team. He underestimated Jihan because of his shabby appearance and lack of expensive equipment. Jihan tried to approach the player and asked him to be quiet, but an argument ensued. Gaeong did not want to get involved in the argument. Song Jihan became angry and grabbed the player's robe, lifting him up. The player screamed to be released. Jihan released his grip on the player's robe and threw him down. The other players were surprised by what Song Jihan had done. It turned out that the player who was killed by being thrown by Jihan was resurrected and begged for forgiveness from Jihan. The person was Kim Gu-hyuk. He was forced to be kind to Jihan out of fear of being killed again. In the Bronze League defense match, each player had 3 lives. After being killed by Jihan, he was immediately revived by the system. However, when revived, Jihan pushed him down again, causing Kim Gu-hyuk to die once more. With that, he had used up 2 of his lives, and he now only had 1 life left after being revived. Therefore, he begged Jihan for mercy to avoid being killed again because if he died, he could not be revived by the system. Kim Gu-hyuk did not want to be the last one standing because if he became the last one, his level would decrease, and the skills he had purchased would disappear. Jihan knew that Kim Gu-hyuk was only pretending, and true enough, Kim suddenly attacked Jihan with fire. It turned out that Kim had the Fire Mage skill, and this skill was very useful in the current battle map. Kim boasted about his current skill and level, which made Jihan angry. Gaeong remembered meeting Kim before. Kim was a mage who was part of one of the top 10 guilds. However, he failed to advance to silver 4 times, and since then, he enjoyed fighting with others. Jihan was still arguing with Kim. Kim asked Jihan to apologize for throwing him, and he would join the team to fight the zombies. The other players cheered happily because Kim agreed to join the team. However, Jihan refused Kim's request. He was angry and wanted to throw Kim again. Kim was surprised. He did not expect Jihan to throw him again. Finally, Kim was killed by Jihan again, and he could not be revived anymore. Jihan was frustrated because people would blame him for causing trouble and killing other useful players. Meanwhile, the zombies almost succeeded in reaching the top of the tower, but were attacked using fire attacks. The power of the Fire Mage's attack was indeed great, and with this skill, they could quickly eradicate the zombies because mages were needed for missions like this. However, their team's mage had just been killed by Jihan, angering the other players. Song Jihan opened the status window and saw a notification for a limited quest. He opened the chain quest and saw the mission that if he managed to kill 1,000 zombies alone, he would get 3,000 points. For him, this mission seemed unrealistic because the time would not be enough. However, the offered prize intrigued him. Lim Gaeong silently observed Song Jihan. She thought something bad might happen. For her, Jihan had bad traits and was therefore not worthy of being expected to join Twin Star. Other players shouted at Jihan not to ignore the team. If this continued, Jihan should better fight alone. Jihan was surprised. He asked if he was allowed to fight alone. Lim Gaeong suddenly stepped forward and ordered Jihan to retreat and protect her. But Jihan chose to face the zombies up front. Other players warned Jihan to retreat. Zombies had successfully reached the top of the tower, and it turned out they were blood zombies, different from ordinary zombies. All the zombie bodies were made of liquid, so they could not be attacked with physical attacks. It took magic skills to defeat these zombies. The zombies began to gather at the top of the tower and attack the players. The players tried to eradicate the thousands of zombies. Song Jihan used divine power to attack the zombies. This skill could kill the zombies. Jihan continued to try to defeat the increasingly numerous zombies. So far, he had managed to kill 6 zombies. Song Jihan continued to launch attacks against the blood zombies, systematically eliminating them one by one. Gradually, he unleashed his divine power to defeat the zombies. Other players seemed to be pleased with Jihan's fighting style, which successfully killed many monsters. Jihan fought by controlling his divine power, ensuring precise strikes. With his excellent stamina, Jihan relentlessly hunted down the zombies, destroying their heads. The system notified that Jihan had met the requirements. He had fully grasped the Otherworld relic and his divine power increased by 1 point. It turned out he knew a method to increase divine power easily. Relics are sacred items. In 2010, when the Earth's tutorial first began, relics were sold at high prices because they were believed to contain some sort of secret unknown to people. However, after 10 years had passed, no one had succeeded in uncovering the secret within the relics, causing the prices of relics to decline. Additionally, otherworld relics, which lack any advantages, were forgotten by people, and their existence remained unknown. Several years earlier, there was a conversation between Sophia, a saintess ranked third in the American First, and Jihan. Sophia recounted how she had once used an otherworld relic to enhance her divine power. Jihan appeared surprised upon hearing this story. He didn't know that relics could be useful for increasing divine power. Unfortunately, according to Sophia, that method could no longer be used after the tutorial ended. Sophia assured Jihan that he could still become a saintess by using that method. According to Sophia, if Jihan were willing to hold on to an otherworld relic for a long time and pray, then he could increase his divine power. However, the requirements for each relic varied. Jihan only realized that there was an easy method to increase divine power. However, this method was only possible during the tutorial period. Therefore, not many people disregarded relics, and the existence of relics was rarely known to people. This information was very useful for him. Jihan visited the Sword Palace penthouse, where he found numerous relics. Unfortunately, the divine power from those relics had already been absorbed, leaving only empty relics. Besides Sophia, another saintess who collected otherworld relics and absorbed divine power was his own sister, Sung Ji-ah. His sister and Yoon Se-jin were Korea's best supporters at that time. However, his sister had passed away, and the only relic he found was a metal pole, which he used to fight the zombies. Lim Gaeong and the other players were still amazed by Jihan's extraordinary combat skills against the zombies. They eventually joined the fight to help Jihan against the zombies. Song Jihan was slightly surprised by the assistance coming from the other players. He seemed to recognize one of the players, Sang Plum Blossom Sword, Lim Gaeong. She was a promising player, but unfortunately ended up being defeated by Yoon Se-jin. Gaeong greeted Jihan and expressed her desire to join the fight against the zombies. Jihan smiled slightly. He opened the window to check his current battle status. He had only managed to get 398 kills and was ranked 5th. It seemed he was far behind the other players' teams, and there was little time left. Jihan thought that Gaeong and the other players were certainly capable of defeating the zombies alone. Therefore, he proposed that they stay atop the tower to fight the zombies, while he descended below to eradicate the zombies there. Gaeong and the other players were shocked by this crazy idea. Jihan descended below to confront the larger number of zombies. With his metal pole weapon, he exerted all his strength to eliminate the zombies. At the end of the match, they successfully defended and secured the first place. They completed the mission to withstand the attacks of the zombies effectively. Gaeong still couldn't believe in Jihan's abilities to finish the game, especially since Jihan's level was below hers, and he wasn't affiliated with any guild. Was there a bug in the system? With the match over, the other players requested to leave the game first, leaving only Jihan and Gaeong behind. Gaeong greeted Sung Jihan. Jihan was surprised that the player knew his name even though they hadn't met before. Gaeong thought she should recruit Jihan to join Twin Star because of his potential and asked for Jihan's number. However, Jihan couldn't remember his number and promised to give it to her when they met again. Jihan then exited the game. Gaeong felt slightly frustrated, feeling that her request had been subtly declined by Sung Jihan. That day, the weather in Korea was exceptionally bright. Jihan was walking along the city streets. He was used to his American number from before and had forgotten his current Korean number. He pondered how to find out his current Korean number. Jihan thought about Gaeong's offer to join the Twin Star Guild, but he still wanted to go solo for now. He opened his status window to check his information. He was satisfied to see his level had increased by 2, and he gained 1500 GP. His divine power had also increased, and he thought about buying a relic, but his current funds weren't enough. In 2020, relic prices should have been cheap, but surprisingly, they were still expensive. He didn't understand why. He wanted to go home to check on things. Entering his house, he noticed a pair of sandals. Song Jihan reminisced about his previous life, filled with regret over many mistakes, especially his inability to protect his sister. If only he could meet his sister again. There was so much he wanted to say. He believed his sister was very strong. She promised to protect him. So trust me, that's what his sister told him back then. However, that event took his sister away from Jihan's life. Jihan missed her dearly and longed to meet his sister once again. Yoonshia is Jihan's niece and is still 18 years old. Since childhood, Jihan has been taking care of Yoonshia because both of her parents were busy. Now Yoonshia only lives with Song Jihan, her uncle. Jihan asked Yoonshia if her father had called her. Yoonshia recounted that her father had called and informed her that he was in love, but the woman he loved had set conditions for him to accept her love. Yoonshia actually disagreed with her father's decision, but he still decided to accept the woman's conditions and ended the phone call. Jihan felt annoyed with Yoon Sejin's arrogant attitude and his disregard for his daughter's feelings. He was an irresponsible father who abandoned his country and his daughter for another woman after his wife's departure. Apparently, Yoonshia found out that her uncle had destroyed their family photo. Jihan apologized for destroying the photo out of anger. But unexpectedly, Yoonshia was not angry. Instead, she was willing to destroy the photo before her uncle did. Yoonshia reassured her uncle not to worry too much about her because she was fine. That's Yoonshia. She always tries to smile even though her life is so difficult and painful. Even when her mother passed away and her father left her for another woman, she still tries to remain cheerful. She worries more about others than herself. She shouldn't have to be like this. Jihan promised to protect his niece. That morning at the Twin Star headquarters, Lee Haeyeon was seen trying to hold back laughter as she listened to a story from her guard, Gaeyoung. Haeyeon really wanted to apologize because she couldn't hold back her laughter hearing the story. Gaeyoung was slightly annoyed with her boss. Apparently, Gaeyoung recounted feeling rejected by Song Jihan when she offered Jihan to join Twin Star. Jihan's rejection made her lose confidence because she felt her appearance wasn't as beautiful as her boss, Lee Haeyeon. She didn't realize that she was actually a popular woman often talked about in the Twin Star office. Gaeyoung began discussing Haeyeon's plan to recruit Jihan to join Twin Star. Haeyeon still didn't know, but she had to be able to bring Jihan into their guild. Suddenly, Haeyeon's phone received a notification that there was a live broadcast of Battle.net match predictions. But wasn't there no important match today? As they both looked at the window, they were surprised to see Song Jihan doing a live broadcast. In the live video, Song Jihan admitted that he was Yoon Sejin's brother-in-law, the Swords King. Jihan conducted the live broadcast with the twin sword statue in the background. This was to prove that he was at the Swords Palace, the Swords King's former residence. Various comments appeared in Song Jihan's live broadcast with mixed reactions. Jihan instructed Yoonshia to step back a bit. He then stomped his foot, causing the twin sword statue to shatter. Haeyeon and Gaeyoung, who watched the live broadcast, were shocked by what Jihan had done. Song Jihan dared to destroy the statue, even though it was a prideful landmark of the city. The number of viewers watching the live broadcast increased with various reactions. Jihan felt relieved after destroying the twin sword statue. The system repeatedly notified him that he had gained achievement points. BattleTube is a streaming feature of Battle.net. This platform has a large and unrivaled market worldwide, and since it is part of Battle.net, the number of viewers and subscribers can lead to rewards if certain milestones are reached. For Song Jihan, who is the Sword King's brother-in-law, this condition provides an opportunity to receive rewards. However, Jihan received many dislikes on the live video he created. Many people disliked him for destroying Yoon Sejin's twin star statue. Jihan realized that many of Yoon Sejin's fans would criticize him and Yoonshia. However, Jihan didn't care because it was the fanatic fans of Yoon Sejin who made Yoonshia's life difficult. The anger and hatred of the Sword King's fans continued to grow over time, and their disappointment with the Sword King was vented onto Yoonshia. They believed that Yoonshia's misbehavior was the reason Yoon Sejin left Korea. This disturbed Yoonshia's life and mood. Song Jihan told Yoon Sejin's fans through the live broadcast that Yoon Sejin would not return. He played a recording of a phone call between Yoon Sejin and his daughter, stating that he had become a Japanese citizen because he had found the person he loved. Jihan's live broadcast was also displayed on a large screen in the middle of the city. So many people watched it. There were mixed reactions to what Jihan said in the live broadcast. Jihan smiled at Yoon-shia and told her to speak. Yoon-shia spoke and introduced herself to the viewers of the live video. She conveyed her father's message that she would inherit the Sword Palace from her father. However, Yoon-shia said that she did not want to accept inheritance from someone who left his country, so she wanted to donate the Sword Palace building to the country. She hoped this donation would be useful for the education of Korean players. She would provide the details later. 30 minutes earlier, Song Jihan and Yoon-shia were engaged in a conversation. Jihan suggested that it would be better for them to donate the building where they live to the country. Yoon-shia was, of course, surprised by Jihan's proposal. She didn't understand why they should donate all their belongings. Jihan struggled to explain why he wanted to sell the building because Yoon-shia would not believe his reason for wanting to sell it. In his previous life, Jihan saw how angry the Korean government and people were at the Sword King's family after Korea was destroyed due to Yoon Sejin's departure. The government seized the building and all assets owned by Yoon Sejin's family. People mocked and threatened Sejin's family with harsh words every day. This situation disturbed Yoon-shia's mental state and made her intend to commit suicide. Jihan didn't want that event to happen again in his current life, so he wanted to give the building to the country. Besides, in the end, the building they occupied would be seized by the government. Song Jihan couldn't possibly explain to Yoon-shia that he came from the future. The girl only knew that he was a drunkard. Unexpectedly, Yoon-shia agreed to her uncle's proposal. Jihan was certainly surprised to hear Yoon-shia's approval. It turns out that his niece trusted him. Yoon-shia seemed to see a change in her uncle, making him more responsible, so she was willing to follow her uncle's words. Song Jihan admired his niece's intelligent and strong character. Song Jihan observed the responses of the viewers to his live broadcast. It turned out that many people were vilifying him. He believed it was better because this way, people wouldn't vilify and blame Yoon-shia for her father's departure. Jihan continued to try to provoke the audience's anger. He began to talk about Yoon Sejin's misdeeds, such as his penchant for women. He said that Yoon Sejin went to Japan because he couldn't freely indulge in women in Korea. His words shocked many people, and they thought the story he told was a lie. Jihan hoped that Yoon Sejin would stay in Japan so he could retaliate when they met in international competitions. Yoon-shia didn't expect her uncle to go that far as to involve Japan, especially since the current relationship between Korea and Japan was not good. Yoon-shia felt that her uncle had changed overnight. Jihan just smiled at Yoon-shia's opinion. Of course, he had changed because he came from the future and had already seen various events and the destruction of Korea. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. They both wondered who had come to their house. Yoon-shia guessed it might be someone looking for her uncle. In Tokyo, Japan, that evening, Yoon Sejin was checking for the latest information by opening the window. Apparently, the public was buzzing about his move to Japan. Moreover, now his brother-in-law, Song Jihan, was doing a provocative live broadcast. This situation was not good for the already strained relationship between Korea and Japan. His wife woke up and asked if he was okay. His wife, Shizuru, was worried about Yoon Sejin's condition because he was the subject of much discussion. Although Yoon Sejin had changed his name, his wife still called him by his Korean name. For her, even though Yoon Sejin became a Japanese citizen, she considered her husband to be the same as before, a Korean whom she loved.